Hello everyone, last video before half term, and we are carrying on with quadratics, and we are carrying on with another topic which is familiar to you, and that's completing the square. So completing the square is taking a quadratic and writing it in this form, and there are two reasons why we do that. One, it allows us to sketch a quadratic and in particular work out where its turning point, its vertex is. And two, it gives us another way of solving them. And in fact, the formula for solving quadratic equations is derived from completed square form. And I will show you that, not today, but I will show you that. Of course, that second use, using it to solve equations, is less than useful now because of the calculators. But yeah, that's where it sort of originates from. So there are three sorts of problem we need to be able to do. We need to be able to go through this process for quadratics that have got a single x squared, for quadratics that have got more than one x squared, and for quadratics that have a negative x squared. And of course, you also get negative with more than one x squared. So those are the types we're going to work through. So let's look at an example of the first one first. And for those of you I've taught before, we did talk about two different ways of doing it. I'm going to stick with one way now, and I recommend that you use it. If you're confident with this and you've learnt it a different way, that's fine. You use the way you're used to doing. So the way I always do it is this. I always ignore the constant term. So I'm going to cover that up for now. But I mustn't forget about it, all right? Mustn't forget about it. So I'm going to just look at this. And I know that x squared plus 4x must come from a bracket that looks like that. To get the x squared and the 4x, I need this. Let's just grid it out to check. X plus 2 squared means x plus 2 multiplied by x plus 2. So I get my x squared, tick. I get a 2x there and a 2x there, which gives me 4x's, tick. But unfortunately, I also get a plus 4, 2 times 2. So this doesn't equal this unless I take away 4. So I have to take away 4 because that bracket would actually give me a plus 4. And we're done, aren't we? Oh, hang on a minute, have I forgotten something? Oh, look, yeah, I forgot this. Okay, so we've got a minus 3 there as well. So I'm going to take away another 3. So I end up with x plus 2 squared minus 7. Now I know that's not the only way of explaining it, and if you're used to a different way of doing it, fantastic, stick to that way. But that's the way I do it. Ignore that bit, work it out without that bit, and then just take 3 away at the end, and that gives me my answer. So here's just 2 for you to try yourself, and pause it, and we'll have a go in just a moment. Okay, so with the first one, there's my little tab again, going to ignore that. So to get x squared minus 6x, I need x minus 3. It's always half the number of x's. And, you know, I'm sure you won't need to do this for very much longer, if at all. But if I was to grid that out, I'd get my x squared, tick. I'd get minus 3x's and minus 3x's, which gives me minus 6x, tick. But be careful here, minus 3 times minus 3 is plus 9. I get a plus 9 that I haven't got here, so I need to take that away. And I've got a plus 1. Minus 9 plus 1 is minus 8. So that was the answer to that one. And with the second one, I don't know if you are used to doing it with fractions or decimals. I always did it with fractions, but I've switched now to doing it with decimals. So I know that that comes from x plus 1.5 squared. It's not x plus 1.5x, it's x plus 1.5 squared. And this is the last one I think I'll grid out. I get my x squared, tick. I get 1.5 x's there, 1.5 x's there, which gives me my 3 x's, tick. But I also get 1.5 times 1.5, and we're multiplying 2.25, which I haven't got here, so I need to take away 2.25. I also need to add 4, so I get, sorry, that looks melting into 1, I get x plus 1.5 squared minus 2.25, but then plus 4, I reckon that's 1.75. Okay, so stage 2 is when you have more than one x squared, and the first bit of bad news is you can't complete the square with more than one x squared, so we've got to deal with that bit first. First step though is that plus 10 just complicates things, so I am going to just shovel it out here. All right, it's still there, mustn't forget about it, but I'm going to ignore it just initially. So I'm going to look at just this bit here. The plus 10 is still there, it's going to stick with us, but I'm going to write this as 2 lots of x squared plus 2x. Now, do you see why I've done that? If you multiply this out, you get this. And now I've got something in here that I can complete the square for. So I know to make x squared plus 2x, I need to have x plus 1 squared in the bracket. And if I were to grid that out, I would get x squared plus 2x plus 1 times 1 plus 1. I haven't got a plus 1 here, so I need to take away 1. So this is this bit completing the square, and there's no number here. I know then there's a number here, but we're going to leave that until the end. So I can just leave it like that. So what I've got is 2 lots of that. I'm now going to expand the bracket, and here's where the mistake most commonly occurs. 2 lots of this we write like this. We don't write it as 2x plus 2 squared. It isn't, because it's 2 lots of this when it's expanded, and we could expand it, but I'm choosing not to. We're going to just leave it like that. 2 lots of minus 1, we do multiply that out. Okay, have I done everything? Is there something I've forgotten? Ah, don't forget that. Right, so all the way down here I've had a plus 10. So my final answer to this one is that. Take away 2 plus 10 gives me that. So when I complete the square for this, I get this. Have a go at this one here. Pause the video and we'll start again in a minute. Okay, so I've got this far, shoveled the 18 over here, and then pulled out the 3. We call that factorising. I'm now going to look at this and complete the square for this. So I know it's come from x plus 2 squared, and if I gridded that out, I'd get the x squared, I'd get a couple of 2x's giving me 4x. I'd also get 2 times 2, I get a 4, so I need to take away that 4 because there's no 4 here. Then I remember that I've actually got 3 lots of that, and I've still got the plus 18. So 3 lots of this. We don't break into the bracket at all. 3 times minus 4 is minus 12. Plus the 18, I'll bring that back. So my final answer is that. And there's a lot of steps going on here, and I know a number of you are quite always keen to sort of miss out steps. I think it's really important that you don't try and do too much in your head, because it's very easy to make a mistake along the way. Okay, let's move on to step 3. So here we have a negative x squared, and this is an example of one where it's sort of written in a different order as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is line it up properly. So I've got minus x squared, that's a plus 5x there, isn't it? And the plus 3, I'm going to shovel that out here. And now here's the trick. We rewrite this. Those of you that I've taught know what a fan I am of multiplying by minus 1, what a great trick it is. So we can rewrite it like that. If I multiplied this out, minus 1 times x squared gives you minus x squared, and minus 1 times minus 5 gives you plus 5x. So this is the same as this. And now I can complete the square for this bit. It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because it's going to be a fraction or a decimal. So you've got x minus 2.5. Remember, it's always half the number of x's goes in the bracket with the x there. And if I gridded this out, I'd get x squared, I'd get the 2 minus 2.5x is giving me minus 5x, and I'd also have minus 2.5 times minus 2.5 plus 6.25. No plus 6.25 here, so I need to take away 6.25 so that those two are the same. Let's now remember that we've got a minus 1 outside the bracket, and I've also got a plus 3. So here's where the mistake could easily occur. We multiply the bracket minus 1 times that. We don't change the bracket at all. We just write it as this. You could put minus 1 outside the bracket or just minus. That's what I tend to do. Minus 1 times minus 6.25 is plus 6.25. And we've got the 3. So my final answer is that. Okay, so 1 for you to try, and I'll do the answer in just a moment. Pause and have a go. Right, so I lined it up and shoveled the 7 out here. I then took out the minus 1 to give me this. The 7 isn't affected by that, so that's not involved in the bracket at all. We're just leaving that there for now and worrying about it later. So I've now got something here I can complete the square for. I know that's going to be half the number of x's, so that's going to be x minus 2 squared, which would give me an x squared. It would give me the minus 4x. It would also give me minus 2 times minus 2, a plus 4. No plus 4 there, so I need to take away 4 to make those two things the same. I then remember that I've got the minus 1 outside the bracket and the plus 7. So this is where the mistake can easily occur. We don't break into the bracket. We just write that. And minus 1 times minus 4 is plus 4, plus the 7 gives us our final answer. And there we go. So I've attached a 2-page PDF with questions on one page, solutions on the second page. There are loads of them. Don't do them all. If you're someone who finds this hard, do the easier ones. If you're someone that finds it easy, do the harder ones. But it is a technique that is definitely worth getting sorted. So spend some time and make sure that you are clear on the 3 different sorts and how you do them. And I trust you have a really good half term. Not going to set any videos over half term, so the next video will be on Monday the 1st of June, and that will be answering the question, so what? Why do we bother writing quadratics in this form? And we look at the 2 things that I mentioned at the beginning, the alternative way of solving and the way it makes it easier to sketch. Take care.